All right. Good evening, or afternoon and morning, whatever time you're watching this. Thanks again for joining me, and thanks for clicking on my video. The product in question today, and the subject of this video, is not a pen. It is going to be a nib. It's going to be a number 6 Yovo nib made of 14 karat gold. What makes this nib significant is that it was modified by a nice lady named Linda Kennedy of Independence.com. Look her up if you're into flex. She is the person to go to. Now, the story goes like this. I was trying to order a custom pen from EdisonPens.com. And I communicated with Brian Gray, and he said that due to Richard Binder's current status of retirement / semi-retirement, who knows what his deal is, it is none of our business. Stock of the Richard Binder full flex nibs are limited, and getting another one for me would take a long time. So what he did was he recommended that I go to Linda Kennedy of Independence, and that the differences between her nib and Richard Binder's nib are imperceptible. The reason being, you have Richard Binder, ninja samurai of making flex nibs, and then you have Linda Kennedy, who was his protege. Now that he's in this state of retirement / semi-retirement, and he's not doing as much work, she's now the ninja master of making nibs. So that's not to say that Richard Binder is not providing Edison pens. I don't know what their deal is, but I know that he still is, but just the timing and the wait is a lot longer than I was willing to wait, so I went with Linda Kennedy. I'm very glad that I did. The nibs are absolutely fantastic. I have 2 of them, and I love flex. I love Spencerian script. I love writing in flourishes and embellishments. I'm not great at it, but guess what? I don't need to be a master of something or good at something to like it, and neither do you. So if you're into flex, if you like flexible nibs, these nibs that Linda Kennedy provides and makes at Independence.com are amazing. Okay, I'm gonna do a writing sample and show you the comparisons between a vintage pen that I have. It's gonna be a Conklin Mark 20. It's gonna be a crescent filler. It's gonna have a Waterman 52 number 2 nib in it. I believe that's what it is. But it's also full flex. You're gonna see that there's very nominal differences between the two, and that the modern one by Linda Kennedy is favorable. And then I'm gonna also compare it to another fantastic nib that Edison offers. It's called the Edison Stock Flex nib, and that one is your standard 14 karat gold nib that has just these circles cut out on the side to give it some more flexibility. Now, having said that it's a Edison Stock Flex nib, it doesn't really, it's not a full flex nib. I wouldn't even go as far to say that it's a semi-flex nib. What it does though is it gives you slight line variation that's comparable to, if not just a touch below, that of a Pilot Falcon. I don't have any Pilot Falcons or custom 912s with the FA nibs anymore to compare it to, otherwise I would, but just trust me when I say that the Edison stock nibs are on par, like I said, and just a touch below. So there's that. I'm going to give you the comparisons, and I'm telling you, if you're into flex, this is the way to go. All right, so let's get working on these comparisons. Okay, I'm going to start with my Kennedy Full Flex 14 karat fine nib. Subject of the video is the nib, not the Collier, which is equivocally awesome, but pay attention to the writing sample, okay? I'm going to do the quick brown fox nonsense. Okay, and then your straight lines about 7 millimeters long. That's your natural, normal writing line width, and then when you want to give it some line variation, you put down a little pressure. Now, I'm not going nuts here. I'm just going as far as I feel without causing any damage, and it's pretty easy to control. Then, of course, we need our necessary Swirls. No writing sample is a writing sample without these. Now, as you can see, no feed ink flow problems, no problems whatsoever, just straight up awesomeness. A vintage 100-year-old Conklin crescent filler. It has a number 2. Actually, it's a Waterman nib, the original nib. The tipping crumbled off, and I didn't have time or energy to get it fixed, but it's your Mark 20 crescent filler. Okay, time for some more jumping of a fox. Okay, now the lines. Now just be advised that the line width to start is thicker on this one. The ink is the same. It is Aurora Black. Normal writing, pressure writing. Look at that thick, nice lines. I mean, just between the Kennedy Full Flex and the Conklin, I mean, it's just the line width, the line variation is outstanding. Okay, got a little railroading. I'm going a little quick. You know, you're not supposed to go as fast if you don't want that to happen, but I am going fast just because I'm impatient. But notice, look over here. The line variation is almost identical on the two. This one here, the Kennedy Full Flex, starts off a little with a finer line because it's a finer nib, and then goes out to, I think I want to say about a millimeter and 1 3/4 of a millimeter. I mean, it's significant. It's like throwing down candy bars onto the page. Look at that. Look how thick it is. The Vintage Flex starts off thicker and gets a little thicker. In terms of ratio of line variation, I would say that they're similar, if not that the Kennedy Full Flex has a little bit more line variation. It is a larger nib. It does have longer tines. Edison stock flex nib. Okay, this one is a really cool nib. I like it a lot. The ink in this one, I didn't change out the ink. This is going to be Pelican Edelstein. It's going to be the Tanzanite color. But in terms of viscosity, they're pretty similar, the Aurora Black and the Edelstein Tanzanite. If you throw a Noodler's Heart of Darkness in here, the lines are going to appear much thicker to start with because the Noodler's ink is a much more lubricated ink. But let's go with the stock flex nib now. The Edison stock flex nib, ladies and gentlemen. Just got a notification on my phone. Okay, and now your normal lines. This is consistent with a fine nib that you would get from Edison. And then this is pressure, and this is as far as it will go. As a matter of fact, if I take it any further, what's going to happen is the nib will separate from the feed. It has already a little bit right there, if you can see, and that will cause the ink to stop flowing through the nib. So you got to make sure that as you're doing it, you're cognizant of that. All right, and then here's our super seriously special and necessary swirls. Otherwise, the world falls apart. And as you can see, there is line variation. Now, would I call this a flex nib? No, not by function. It is a very nice nib. I love this nib in that it has a very springy feel to it when writing. It just bounces really nice. It's tuned really well as well. So, you know, as long as you know what you're getting is not a semi-flex nib and definitely not a full flex nib, you're just getting a nib that gives you some slight line variation at a cost of potential ink starvation due to the nib bending up. Now, after all of that, it has not, but after doing the lines, after writing what I did over here, it did. Okay, but it's easy to fix. You just turn it over and you gently press it down and then reattach it, and then you're good to go. But if you want full flex, and if you want something that is vintage, as good as vintage, on par with vintage, if not better than vintage, then this Kennedy Flex is a way to go. It is probably the way to go because as time passes, vintage pens are harder to find, and then when you get them, you realize this thing is 100 years old. I don't want to mess it up. So that's the writing sample. I hope this helps you. If you're thinking about getting a custom Edison a custom Edison pen, or you're trying to get even a production line Edison pen, but you want a full flex nib, then just go to Linda Kennedy at indiependance.com. Indiependance.com. Very nice lady. Very good work. Deserves credit for her work. She's fantastic. Okay, so that was your comparisons of the Independence Linda Kennedy Full Flex with the Conklin Mark 20 and the Edison Stock Flex nib. I hope that if you're considering these nibs, that this video helps you make your decision. For me, going online, although Brian Gray did recommend her, I like to trust but verify what it is that I'm going to buy. Looking online, there was not a lot of information, so I truly hope that after watching this video, you have confidence in buying a nib from Linda Kennedy, because they are fantastic at Independence. She is fantastic in the nib work that she does. So, thanks for watching again. Be safe.